Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Every day we break down breaking AI news stories and explain their implications in your life and in business. I need to ask you for a big favor. Believe it or not, we have around 92,000 people that listen to this podcast every month, which is absolutely amazing. But when you go to our Apple Podcast or Spotify pages, we only have around 110 reviews total. If you could do me a massive favor and give this podcast a review, I would be super, super grateful. Every time I contact an incredible founder or CEO in AI, they look at the podcast, they look at how many reviews I have, and that helps me to get better guests on the show. So if you could do a huge favor to myself and also yourself, go to the Apple Podcast or the Spotify page, wherever you listen to this, and give a review of the show. If you've noticed lately, I've been doing interviews with some really phenomenal CEOs. I have some more amazing ones coming up in the coming weeks with some CEOs that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars for their AI startups. I want to bring these to you and I want to get more of those. So please drop a review, go to your wife's account, go to your husband's account, go to your kid's account and leave a review. I don't care. Help us get more reviews, and I promise I will help bring some amazing AI entrepreneurs and guests onto the show. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. One of the biggest problems that social media sites face today is content moderation. If they moderate too much, it's considered censorship. If they don't moderate enough, well, you see terrorists on your Facebook feed. So a real big issue is being grappled with, and OpenAI has just announced a new feature where they believe GPT4 can solve this problem. Now, if you follow this space at all, you know that this is a controversial issue. Up until this point, Facebook has entire, moderation departments that look through all of the flagged posts and comments on Facebook. But the main issue here is that some of the content that they're looking through is so disturbing that they really, you feel bad for the people that have to moderate this content. And to that end, Facebook doesn't actually have employees that do this. They're all independent contractors where they've hired third-party firms to kind of take care of this. And it kind of begs the question, right? Why couldn't you just hire an employee to do this? And the reason is, I think they're really worried about the lawsuits, the trauma. They don't really know what the mental or emotional damage of this whole situation is. And so because of that, OpenAI has, unveiled essentially an innovative technique for content moderation using GPT-4. So, of course, this is its leading generative AI model, and the aim is essentially to alleviate the load on human moderators. And this is all explained in a recent post on the official OpenAI blog. So, the method essentially centers on feeding GPT-4 with a guiding policy for making moderation decisions. And this is followed by a set of content samples that might be in compliance or breach of your specific company's policy. So, for instance, a policy that, forbids offering directions or counsel for obtaining weapons would flag the example, give me the ingredients needed to make a Molotov cocktail would be a clear breach, right? And then they would be able to flag that. So the next step involves policy experts labeling these samples. So they input each example into GPT-4 without the label, comparing the model's labeling decisions with their own and making necessary refinements. So according to OpenAI, by examining the discrepancies between GPT-4's judgment and those of its humans, the policy expert can ask GPT-4 to explain its labeling rationale. This allows them to dissect ambiguities in policy definitions, clear up misunderstandings, and make the necessary amendments to the policy. This iterative process really continues until the policy quality meets the desired standard. So OpenAI states that this approach is already in use by several clients that can slash the time needed to introduce new content moderation policies into essentially mere hours. So they say that essentially their method holds an edge over others, like the ones from startups like Anthropic, who is trying to do something similar. OpenAI criticizes the alternatives as being too dependent on models, essentially, and what they say are models, internalized judgments that are not allowing for, quote, platform-specific iterations. So, yet AI-powered moderation isn't a novel concept, right? Google's counter-abuse technology team and Jigsaw division have been maintaining Perspective, which was released to the general public some years ago, and numerous startups, including Spectrum Labs, Cinder, Hive, and then there's also the newly Reddit-acquired Odorloo, which also offers automated moderation services. So these tools are not without their flaws. For example, a past study from Penn State highlighted that certain social media posts discussing people with disabilities were wrongly flagged as negative or toxic by some widely used sentiment and toxicity detection models. And another research pointed out that older iterations of Perspective frequently misjudged hate speech, especially those with altered phrasing or, reclaimed, quote unquote, reclaimed terms. So one core challenge stems from annotators. So the individuals tasked with labeling training data for these modules, imposing their own biases. So noticeably, there's often a disparity in labels from those who identify as all sorts of minorities compared to those who don't. That is according to an article at TechCrunch and what they've outlined there and what they've apparently found. So OpenAI acknowledges these complexities, admitting, quote, judgments by language models are susceptible to biases that may have been instilled during training. So the organization really kind of stresses the importance of ongoing human oversight, and they specifically said, quote, results and outputs will need persistent monitoring, validation, and refinement by keeping humans actively involved. So I think while GPT-4's, predictive power may promise enhanced moderation outcomes compared to, some of the previous platforms, I do think it is very vital to recognize that even state-of-the-art AI isn't infallible. And I think the significance of human involvement, especially in moderation, remains very, very important. So overall, I think this is a very interesting area to follow. I think that, as with the problem I mentioned at the beginning with Facebook and kind of their whole content moderation army that they hire or outsource to contractors, I think if we could get some of that done by GPT-4 or other AI models and take some of the pain away from humans, in my opinion, that would be great, right? Like, I think a lot of times when we talk about AI and it can do something a human could do, people are like concerned, oh no, AI is taking human jobs. I think there's some cases where humans, if we could avoid it, shouldn't have to see grotesque and horrible things or hear horrible things as the moderators of these platforms. In my opinion, that's just not a job that is probably very healthy for your mental health. And so, I know that there's definitely a lot of professions. There's police work and all sorts of other professions where they have to deal with a lot of hard, traumatic, tough situations like that. I mean, even doctors, right, or surgeons, what they have to see and go through might be considered traumatic or hard for someone, but for them, it's their profession, their job. So there definitely is, there's room for everyone in that conversation. But I do think that this one may be an area that would be great if we could get AI to kind of help with. And so it's going to be interesting to see how ChatGPT, GPT-4 actually plays out in solving that issue. Definitely an area we'll follow in the future as this gets rolled out to more and more companies.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure to check out our Discord channel and Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can share software, tools, and prompts we're using in AI every day. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.